So yeah, it's pretty amazing to come back to IIT. So I was alumni here, graduated in 2016, so about 9 years ago. Um, but yeah, I just wanted to come by, talk a little bit about what I'm doing at Amazon and some of the cool things we're working on. Switch slides. So a bit about me. So I went to IIT, started at 2013, and then graduated 2016. I was part of a couple of different labs. I'm not sure if any of the professors still work here, but I know Professor Bilgic is still here. So I did a paper with him, did a paper with Professor Argamon in the Linguistic Cognition Lab, and also did a paper with Professor Raiku. I'm not sure if he's here still, but yeah, he was my operating systems professor at the time. But yeah, graduated in 2016, started at Here Technologies, a company downtown Chicago, formerly known as Nokia Maps. And yeah, was working on the open location platform there, which was a neat tool to ingest the geospatial data and allow customers like Audi, BMW, a lot of those automobile manufacturers to use the data that they ingest into the platform and use some of the tools that we had developed so that they could rely on it for some of their self-driving features. Also worked on some open source tools. So we were using a lot of Cassandra, which is a NoSQL database. We were using that a lot at the time. So built a small Cassandra as a service for my team there. And started looking into open tracing, which was a distributed tracing library that was kind of in its early stages then. I think it's called something else now, but yeah, we started using it. And in 2019, joined Amazon, worked on the air science and tech team. So the main confusion there is it the drones or the airplanes? It's the airplanes, but it's still pretty cool. So you can see me in this photo right here. We get to visit some of the Amazon air sites. So many of the airports across the U.S., Canada, even in India, Europe, they have locations where our planes come and arrive there and handle package volume for Amazon. Some of the things I do on the side. So we have a neat program at Amazon called the Amazon Technical Academy, which is a way for associates, some of the folks that are working on the ramp, working at these airports, and who don't really have a technical background, to get into software development. So it's kind of like a boot camp that we have within Amazon. So I was a mentor for some of the folks through that program. I'm also a security certifier. So as you can imagine, we have a lot of these applications that we develop at Amazon, but we have to make sure they meet the security bar. And so being a security certifier, I work with teams across Amazon. So recently I worked with the Alexa team, reviewed some of their applications, making sure that there's no security loopholes or anything there. Some other things that are pretty interesting. Started a flyer for the org, which was it's a monthly newsletter that we share, talking about new pieces of software that's in the open source community, things that other teams within the org have found interesting. We also have the Amazon mentoring program, and something pretty cool. There's a machine learning university within Amazon. I believe there's a site externally too that you can access, but it has some cool courses about. Machine learning is the rage nowadays. So it has some neat courses on. They recently added Gen AI and things like that. So pretty neat. And just talking a little bit about the org. So Air Science and Tech. Our main goal is to meet or improve delivery estimates without compromising safety. Right? We want to make sure that all of our associates, so all of our customers are internal to Amazon, right? They're associates working at the airports, working at some of the sort centers, fulfillment centers. Amazon Air is mainly for the airports, but we work with associates at the sort centers as well, because that volume will come to an airport at times. So some of the things we look at, long-term planning, making sure volume that we've seen in the past, past year or so, based on those trends, can we improve the flight schedule moving forward? Making sure we try to minimize things like disruptions, right? When there's a weather event, can we safely reroute aircraft to an airport that's nearby? Look at short-term planning, ensuring resources, so things like ULDs. So ULD is, if you look at the top left image there, it's those large containers. They're about like 500 pounds, but they conform to the shape of the aircraft, so they fit pretty snugly within the aircraft, and all of Amazon's packages go in those ULDs. And we want to make sure that there's enough ULDs available for packages that are coming at the site, right? We also look at resources like tugs, making sure that tugs are available to drive the ULDs. So we have a tug driver driving the ULDs from the what we call the caster deck, which is, so you can imagine at the airport, right, there's the building, and then there's the ramp where all the airplanes come and park. So we need to make sure that the ULDs are picked up from under the roof, as we call it, within the building, and then driven over to where the planes are parked. So if you, we call those locations where planes are parked gates, right? You can think of it when you're going on a flight, just a normal passenger flight with like American Airlines or something, right? Those gates that you go to are usually situated in the building, but these gates are out on in the parking lot. So we have to make sure we drive the ULDs over to one of the planes, which you can see there. And then, yeah, we safety is our biggest concern. We want to make sure we reduce the likelihood of injury. Moving those ULDs around, it's all manual, so it's not like the ULDs are driving themselves. They might in the future, though, but who knows, right? But to handle those ULDs and drive them across, you need to have the right safety gear, and we have tools that associates can use to, report safety incidents and things like that. Yeah, that's a quick summary, but yeah, if you want to learn more, I'll share with Nitin there's an inside tour about our operations at KCVG, which is in Cincinnati, which is our main Amazon Air hub. So if you want to learn more, there's a pretty in-depth video about that on YouTube. But yeah, that was a quick presentation.
Awesome. So I want to start off from your pre-Amazon days. So you interned at Here Technologies, and then you joined them as a full-time employee after graduation. So how did that pan out? Because I'm sure you must have done a really great job, but I'm curious to know how did the conversation go? How did they extend you a full-time offer and everything? Because it'll be very helpful for students over here to know more about how to go about these conversations.
Yeah, sure. So that was a while ago. It was 2015 was when I did my internship at Here, and that was I was fresh, almost a fresh graduate. Last year at IIT was 2016, but yeah, I was excited to start in the industry, right? And when I was working at Here Maps, I think the main thing to look out for whenever you're working at an internship or at a new job, make sure you make a lot of good connections with people. And I tried to do just that, right? I had a great mentor who was really willing to help me out in my final project, and that final project went really well also. So that also improved my confidence, right? as almost a fresh grad. Proves your confidence when you know that your project does well, people at the company you're working for appreciate what you're doing. And so that made me feel that, okay, a full-time offer is likely going to happen, though no one's told me that outright, right? But, I still looked at, so then, 2016, I still looked at other companies to apply for. Civis Analytics was another company I got an offer from at the time. And then I was looking at, I think, Target, Datadog, or other companies as well. But when ultimately didn't get much of a response from Here Maps initially, I reached out to the recruiter, and I was like, I have an offer from Civis and these other companies, and it was actually around midnight or so I sent that email, and about like 10-15 minutes later, he's like, "Oh, Geet, we want to we want to extend an offer to you." So that's what's important. I think having good connections when you're doing your internship, and then making sure you have other offers for, as a backup, but also good for negotiation, right? Because if I didn't have those other offers, I think I likely get an offer back, but maybe that total compensation was not what I had originally wanted, right? But that's something to look out for. But I think back to your question, when I started at Here Maps, or I guess the interview process, right, it was the standard like 4 rounds of interviews, and then you'd have your behavioral and a couple of algorithmic questions. But at the end of the day, folks really want to just see if you're able to complete whatever problem, or not necessarily complete the problem, but make sure that you are able to show them that you're on the right path, right? That's what they're looking at companies like Amazon as well. So I think we'll talk a bit more about that, but yeah, that was my experience there.
Awesome. So optionality is key.
Yeah.
Having multiple offers in hand. Awesome. Cool. So let's jump to Amazon now. So you interviewed for the role like 5 years ago. I'm not sure if the interview process changed, but yeah, if you remember, like how was the interview? What kind of rounds did you have? And all that would be great for students.
Yeah. So yeah, the interview process hasn't really changed much, but I do remember the interview because I do a lot of interviews myself. So frequently I'm in interviews for students that are fresh out of college, and also some senior engineers. But yeah, standard. Usually, what the process looks like is you'll have a coding assessment. If you do really well on that coding assessment, you'll go straight to an on-site interview. If folks kind of felt like you were on the fence on the assessment, but they think you still could have got it, you still could have completed it in time, they might give you a phone screen interview. So you look at a coding assessment, potentially a phone screen, and then finally an on-site interview. And the on-site is, again, 4 rounds. But what's special about Amazon is they have someone called a bar raiser. And if you've looked at Amazon interviews or learned about them a little bit, the bar raiser is usually the more complicated interview. They're really looking to see if you can, you have the thought process to approach the problem. You don't necessarily have to complete the problem successfully. I mean, it's great that if you could, or if you could complete it in, all right time complexity. But at the end of the day, the bar raiser is one of those interviews you want to make sure you do well on. The other interviews, there's generally the bar raiser could be a problem, like a coding problem. It could also be like just like like an architecture, like system design question. And then the other two interviews, there's generally coding problems where one of the coding problems is looking at if the problem is logical or maintainable. So you want to see if those problems are generally easy. So they're looking at, if you're able to, you should be able to solve that problem, but are you able to solve it in a clean and concise way? Is it easy to maintain after you've submitted your code? Do you have a lot of comments? Or generally, I actually prefer teammates not have comments in their code because I feel like the code should kind of explain itself just by how clean it is, right? And then the other problem is usually just overall just a standard algorithmic question. And then you finally have your behavioral question. That is something special to Amazon. You probably heard about Amazon's leadership principles. We have 16 now. We used to have 14. Those leadership principles are really ingrained in Amazon culture. And I really like to follow them in my personal life too. So those are some of the things you have to think about if you want to interview with Amazon.
Awesome. What's your favorite leadership principle?
Yeah, that's an easy one. I think it's learn and be curious. I love tinkering, even on side projects on the weekends, right? So that's definitely my favorite.
Awesome. So we're going to move to the product development process at Amazon. Amazon is very famous for the working backwards method. Amazon has also released a book on that. So can you take a feature that you were part of building and then explain to us how this working backwards method actually works? Just a very short example.
Yeah, sure. So I'm thinking of something that I'm able to share. But I think in one of the previous slides you saw ULDs, right? Those large containers. So one of the larger products that I worked on was being able to track those containers across the Amazon Air network. Initially, that process was very manual. So you can imagine people. There's a funny joke actually that operations uses Excel all the time, and it's very true. So even with ULDs, you can imagine folks were just every week or it was like a weekly audit of at each of the sites. They'll say, okay, I have these many cans here, these many cans here, and I'll report that, and that would be the audit. So every week we'll get that report, and you can imagine there's a lot of problems with that. People trying to find ULDs in the area, and of course they're going to miss ULDs. There's going to be damaged ULDs that are not serviceable. They can't actually fly, and those would have been missed also. So the working backwards approach to a problem like this, to any problem that we work at Amazon, is first it goes back to that LP of being customer obsessed, right? You want to see what those pain points are for the customer. So in this case, you don't want a customer, you step into their shoes, right? Would you want to have to, as part of your daily job, go around and count ULDs? Probably not. So that was an easy pain point, right? But you'd work backwards from there, and you'd come up with these business requirements. And you say, okay, as a customer, I don't want to have to count ULDs. I want to know which ULDs are. I want to have an accurate count of all the ULDs at my site, potentially at a sub-location within the site. So not just, okay, there's 100 ULDs at KCBG, but okay, there's maybe 50 ULDs at 50 ULDs in the building, 20 ULDs out on the ramp, right? Other things to think about is maintenance of these ULDs. If a ULD is damaged, you want to know which ULDs are damaged so that you could put them off to the side and they're not mistakenly grabbed when packages have to be loaded onto a plane. And many of these things, and and then you work back from those requirements, right? Many of these things that we look out for is, at the end of the day, it's customers that are using our tools properly, but it's also, we have to comply with the FAA, because you're putting these ULDs on aircraft. And if an aircraft is not properly balanced and it doesn't have ULDs that comply with safety standards, that's a risk to the pilot, the co-pilot, right? And that's a risk to, you don't want that plane to be up in the air. So, but yeah, we work backwards from those requirements, and ultimately, you think about things like, okay, these are all my requirements. How can I how can I create a MVP, a minimal viable product, right? So what portion of those requirements are must-haves? So in this case, right, having an accurate count of ULDs, making sure we know which ULDs are damaged or not, right? Which of those requirements are must-haves? That would be your your P0. Then you'd have your P1 and other milestones. But, and then you look at each of those and you say, okay, what's the timeline that I can get that done by? And yeah, and then you hand it off to developers and they start cranking away at it. Right? But I think that's a quick summary, but there's a lot of, I think at Amazon, what I really love about Amazon is you get to wear multiple hats. Just because you're a developer doesn't mean you're not doing a bit of the product work. You're not, right? Or the project management work. There was actually a time in one of the previous photos you saw me and one of my teammates standing in front of an airplane. That was actually for, I think, a year and a half. That was our team. That was just me and him. Yeah. Without any product. So we were basically in charge of coming up with, sometimes I would have, we would visit sites and I would have, these like interviews with customers trying to get their feedback on early stages of our product. So I think that's what I really love about Amazon. They give you this sense of independence, right? You get to control end to end and make sure that what you're building is something that customers want to see.
That's awesome. Even Steve Jobs talked a lot about this. He says that you got to start from the customer experience and then work backwards to the technology, not the other way around. And I also love how customers are not just people like us who purchase from Amazon. A customer can be the pilot. We got to have a great experience for the pilot as well. And a customer can be a person counting the ULDs on the ground. So yeah, customer. And is it true that Jeff Bezos has an empty chair in every board meeting? Is that true, or is just myths?
Well, I'm not sure about that. I wish I was in a meeting with Jeff Bezos, but yeah, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure if he's in a lot of meetings anymore now that he has left.
Oh yeah.
Right. But maybe Andy Jassy is following in his footsteps.
Probably, yeah. And I want to talk about the PR plus FAQ document. So PR stands for press release and FAQ stands for frequently asked questions. So they say that every feature starts from this document. That's Amazon's way of like working backwards. I'm curious to know who writes these documents first. Who's in charge of writing these PR plus FAQ documents?
Yeah, sure. So it's usually product that writes those documents. But again, back to wearing multiple hats. I had a time. I wrote. I didn't write follow that exact format, but there were documents that I had written where I was I had an idea or an epiphany over the weekend, right? And I wanted to. And these sorts of documents are a great way to formulate what you're thinking and present it to product or to senior management. But it's like you said, right? PR, press release, and FAQ. It's a way to imagine that the product that you want to build is already released, and customers have seen a press release about it. So what would you write in that sort of press release? You want to write, what's cool about that product, but you don't want to use filler words like, okay, for example, like with this case of Yuldi management, right? You know, we went ahead and built this amazing tool that reduced the amount or reduced the need for manual audits. That's not a great sentence. you would, you know, Amazon and many other companies, we're data-driven companies, right? So at the end of the day, you want to say, you know, in that press release, you want to say what your goal is when you are building that product. So you'd say something like, we reduce the need of manual audits by 90%. And you know, you want to back that number, or that could be the goal that you are striving for when you're building your product. So at the end, so then when you finally built out the product and released it, you could go back to the press release and say, okay, I had this goal of 90%. Did I meet that goal? So it's a great way of, again, you know, back to working backwards and thinking big is another LP, right? You want to be able to work backwards from that goal and make sure that you're taking those baby steps toward it.
God, working backwards indeed. So I want to talk about a very viral tweet from Andy Jassy. He said that Amazon Q, which is an AWS product, it's a Gen AI assistant for software development. And he said that the average time to upgrade an application to Java 17 plummeted from 50 developer days to just a few hours. And all of this has saved Amazon the equivalent of 4,500 developer years of work. Have you used Amazon Q?
Yes, I've used Amazon Q.
Did you approve code written by it?
Yeah, definitely. So
how was your experience?
Yeah, actually, what he's talking about there is something we did pretty recently at Amazon. There was a campaign to upgrade all of our applications from Java 8 to Java 7. Well, not necessarily Java 8, but to Java 17. And so there was there's a tool, or there's a team within Amazon called Builder Tools. And they provide a lot of these tools that we use on a day-to-day basis. So they built a tool that relied on you know, Gen AI and Amazon Q to make those migrations to Java 17 really easy. And so me and my teammates, we used that tool, and we ended up, you know, I was approving code reviews that tool generated. But so when they say numbers like that, of 4,500 developer years, right? You know, Amazon is very data driven, so I would say that there is that number is probably pretty accurate. I'm not sure how they came up with that number, but it definitely saved us a lot of time, because you know, campaigns where you're migrating applications, or you are you know, migrating languages that your application uses, or updating apps to meet the security standard and stuff. Those are not campaigns that you want to do, right? Developers are more interested in working on products. We don't want to have to do these campaigns. It's a necessary part of the job, right? And that's where I think Gen AI and these tools can really help, is helping with those, helping build out those tools that reduce the need of unnecessary or kind of like uninteresting work.
Got it. Because when I saw that, I was like, okay, maybe the numbers are offshoot. Maybe they're just overhyping the Amazon Q. Maybe it's just marketing for Amazon Q, but it's great to hear it from you directly.
Right. So I don't have the data to back it up, but based on the Amazon culture and what I've seen, a lot of the numbers that we put in documents have the data to back it up. So and you know, maybe when you go higher up the chain, there's a bit of a marketing play there as well. But I think most of the numbers generally are accurate, or they have the data to back it up.
Got it. And you know, given the advancements in AI-assisted coding, so you've been a software engineer before all of this, and now you got a chance to approve code written by Amazon Q. So how do you envision the future of software engineering? Like, will engineers be more prompt wordsmithing, like the LLMs and then to generate code for them? Or how do you envision the future of software engineering?
Yeah, I think what we know today as a software developer is going to change. But you know, I have friends and teammates who are a bit worried about the future of software development. But I wouldn't say you need to be worried, right? Because at the end of the day, software development, it's not, it's kind of like an art, right? You want to be able to continuously learn and improve. So Gen AI is another tool in your toolbox. It's, it's a powerful tool, for sure. But that doesn't mean that software developers, the role will go away anytime soon. Maybe a long way down the road, what we know today as software development will change, but that doesn't mean that people will be out, developers will be out of a job. But I think what I like to think about software, like it as is, you know, maybe folks in the future will not be known as software developers, but more like software tweakers, right? Or software adjusters, right? What Gen AI does really well is it democratizes software development to the average person, for the average person, right? So now product can, that handshake that we have with product development, with product and software developers, right? They generally provide us with requirements and a mock and something they have to come up with, right? But think of a future where they rely on Gen AI to come up with that V1 of the product, right? They hand that off to a developer, and now the developer has a application they can springboard from, and they can adjust that application to meet, you know, future requirements, or, you know, maybe adjust it manually using, you know, just updating the code, or relying on prompt engineering to adjust it in a quicker way. But at the end of the day, software development is not just building a product. Building a product is like the tip of the iceberg, right? You can build you can, like this Udemy management tool, anyone could build it maybe over the weekend. But that doesn't mean that it is ready for customers after you've built it, right? You need to have, what we talk about within Amazon is tools that meet an OE bar, an operational excellence bar. So after you've developed the application, you have metrics and alarms in place to make sure that you're paged when there's issues. You don't rely on customers to be using the application actively for you to get a page, right? So many of our tools, we have bots that come in and try out different features on a regular cadence. We call those canaries within Amazon. So, well, I can go off on a little tangent there, but the reason why they're called canaries is because they, back in the day, canaries were used to notify miners when they were going underground that there was an issue. Then, you know, the canary would stop like chirping. And so it's similar. That's why we call these bots canaries, because when there's an issue, that canary would trigger an alarm or a page that, you know, sometimes at the middle of the night I would be waking up and my phone would be going off, right? But yeah, back to your question, I think Gen AI will definitely help with software development, but there's definitely other things that developers have to do, like operational excellence, like making sure that customers are able to, you know, be notified when there's issues, things like that, yeah, software development as a whole will not go away.
Awesome. So I'm sure you're interviewing a lot of folks to join your team. So when you're interviewing folks, what are some red flags that you notice that become like instant reasons for rejection?
Yeah, I think, so a funny story, probably the most blatant red flag was I was doing an interview, and the interviewee had headphones in his ear, and I thought that was a bit odd. But he would be asking. So I would ask the question, and then he would ask to what the question was, or he would be asking he would be asking multiple questions repeatedly, right? And he was actually actually had some external help with the headphones. So someone was speaking in his ear on how to solve the problem. So, I mean that's a joke, right? Of course, that is a blatant red flag. But other things is, in a world of LLMs and Gen AI, right? It's become a bit difficult to make sure that the candidates you are interviewing are ready to exceed the Amazon bar, right? So things we're looking out for is, when you're interviewing, making sure to ask the right questions, or not necessarily the right questions, but ask questions about the problem before you're jumping right in and coding. If I give a problem to someone and they jump right in and they solve it right away, I would question, have they probably seen this problem before, or or are they super smart? Probably they saw the problem. So and then when the interviewee is asking those questions, are those questions related to time thinking? Is he thinking big? Is he thinking about time complexity? Is he thinking about how so if I ask him to build a library, let's say I ask him to build a simple library that accesses directories on the file system. Is he approaching that question in a way to just solve the question, or is he asking how are people going to use that library, and using the answer I give him to adjust how he writes the library, right? Is he writing the library in a very maintainable way that's easy for a customer to use? So it goes back to being customer obsessed, right? Even in the interview, right? Because those questions, many of the questions we come up with at Amazon are real problems that we're trying to solve. So we're looking for people who are both know how to approach a problem, but also be able to ask questions about the problem. And if they're not doing that, if they're just focusing on the problem itself, that might be a yellow flag. But at the end of the day, yeah, it's not just one interview that makes or breaks your case, right? There's 4 interviews. We have a great debrief session after the interview, so we discuss about all of the different things we saw, all of the different LPs that we noticed that interviewee exhibit during the interview. And yeah, I think that session has really helped, find those candidates that really exceed the Amazon bar and we're willing to, join our team.
Awesome. I like how you test engineers' ability to wear multiple hats, including the product manager hat. I think that's really cool. I haven't come across that anywhere, because engineers are mostly rewarded for cranking out code, right? The customer's problem is the product manager's problem. But it's really cool that Amazon tests for these aspects as well. So yeah, if anyone wants to join Amazon, have some product manager friends so that. All right. So we're running short of time, so let's go to the rapid fire section. The first question is, Amazon offers a wide range of products and services, right? Apart from the usuals, like the Amazon shopping experience, or EC2 or S3, what's your favorite Amazon product or service?
So I'm not sure if many of you know about this one, but you've probably heard of Google Stadia, which is a video game streaming platform. Amazon has something called Amazon Luna. I play a lot of video games on the side with friends, so I really enjoy using Amazon Luna. Yeah, it has. I think it has really done very well compared to Stadia, which is not. I
They shut
I
it
think they
down.
shut it down, right? But yeah, I think that's my favorite.
What's the favorite app on your phone?
That would be Duolingo.
What are you learning?
I'm actually learning Hindi.
You're
Because,
learning Hindi. Oh
I
my god. I wouldn't have expected that.
I know how to speak Hindi fluently, but I don't know how to read and write. So I'm learning how to read and write Hindi.
Awesome. Okay.
And
that
doing
was
some Spanish on the side. But
Spanish.
yeah,
Are you,
relearning Spanish.
are you dating any Spanish girl? Okay. So yeah, favorite tech product that you can't live without.
So I think it'd probably be my VR headset.
Which one?
I have the Oculus Quest 2,
Wow.
and I really enjoy. And that's something I started during COVID, when you couldn't really meet teammates, but we wanted to have sessions where we could play board games virtually and stuff. So we'd be, I'd have table tennis matches using my Quest 2, and yeah, that was a great way to really feel like you're with them, but even though they're across states.
That's awesome. And favorite non-technical, non-software product that you can't live without.
Non-technical product. I guess it would be the books that I read. So it's a really long day sometimes. So having a way to relax and have a good night's sleep is really important to me. So I read a lot of fictional novels. If you've heard of Brandon Sanderson, he's a pretty cool author that I've recently started reading books from. So yeah.
So from the top of your head, what are 3 traits for successful engineers? From the top of your head, 3 traits of successful engineers.
I'd say someone who is always learning, likes to tinker with things, and is not, or I guess, is not afraid to reach out to when he needs help, right? Don't feel like you have to do everything, but is not afraid to, if he or she needs help, reach out and make those meaningful connections with people.
Got it. And the last question is, okay, it's kind of a controversial question, but the greatest, the top 1% software engineers, like, are they born or made?
That's an interesting question. Well, they're definitely not born, in my opinion, but they do have those traits. At the end of the day, it's about learning and having that drive. So if you feel like you have that drive and you're willing to explore new things, whether it be in software development or just in your personal life, I think that will really help you in the long term and just living life to the fullest.
Awesome. That's a great answer. So let's give a huge round of applause for Geet. So we have time for 1 or 2 questions. So if you have a question, just raise your hand.
Do you have any suggestions for future engineers to stay immune to layoffs, take layoffs?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the economy right now is not great for I think especially for entry-level software engineers. So to really, it's hard to be immune to layoffs. I think it's better to have a mindset that, okay, if you are laid off, are you able to get back up, right? Are you able to find those other opportunities and don't feel like you're, I think the main thing is don't feel like you're tied down to a specific industry, right? So for example, I was working mainly in transportation up until now, but I need to be, I need to be learning about other things as well, right? Maybe looking into fintech or something else to keep my options open. So if, knock on wood, I'm laid off, right? Then I have other things to look out for, in the world.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
What type of jobs do you think this AI revolution can replace? Suppose historically, calculators and computers have come up, and people also feared this might take us to college. Similarly, in this AI revolution, what type of new jobs are going to
So I'm going to repeat the questions just because it was a little hard to hear. So you're saying what jobs are going to be replaced? Oh, might emerge. Oh, okay. Yeah, I think the jobs that are definitely going to be big are ones related to prompt engineering and adjusting tools and services that folks are using. There's going to be a lot of jobs that are going to be replaced, but at the same time, there's going to be opportunities for those people who have been replaced to find jobs that are available. So, for example, at Amazon, in a lot of our sort centers, fulfillment centers, even the Amazon Air sites, we have bots now that are picking items and putting them into appropriate bins for sorting. Back in the day, there was, and still many of the sites, they have humans that would have done those tedious jobs. Not very interesting jobs, but they would do those, right? But because now bots are replacing them, now we need those same humans to be able to learn how to, maintain those bots, right? If a bot shuts down or if there's issues, I think that's where Gen AI and machine learning will really change the world. It's going to be a lot of these uninteresting tasks will be given to the bots, and then the tasks that to handle disruptions or issues when automation is breaking. That's when humans will have to be called in.
Awesome. So Geet, if people want to reach out to you after the event, what's the best way for them to reach out?
Yeah, you can reach out to LinkedIn on my LinkedIn. But yeah, got too many views this week. But yeah, feel free to reach out.
How many connection requests did you get?
I think like 20 or so.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, feel free to reach out. I'm always willing to help. And yeah, if you need any support on things like resumes or what teams at Amazon are looking out for folks, feel free to ping, and I can see if I can help out.
Awesome. Let's give another huge round of applause for Geet.